What do you miss about the 90s? Before we had mobile phones, my wife and I would plan to meet at a certain street corner at a certain time after work. We sometimes had to wait for the other person to show up, but we knew they would. Reminds me of a time when my family and I got split up during a graduation ceremony, not mine, and we couldn't find each other. This was before cell phones were common, so half of us ended up going to a steak dinner and the other half ordered pizza at the house waiting for the other half to show up. Good times, good times. Around the 2010s, I had a boyfriend that did not have a cell phone. Once we got separated at a big event downtown, we ended up meeting at the nearest bookstore or comic book store, without discussing it before. Where would they go to wait? Of course, there. There was a period between the Cold War and the War on Terror when it seemed like there was hope for the world. This exactly. Too young to have been worried much by the Cold War, 9/11 was years away, good music on the radio, that was the sweet spot. 9/11 was one of those watershed historical moments that truly did change everything afterwards. So many of the problems that we're dealing with now, geopolitics, the surge of right-wing media, internet issues in general, privacy concerns, the us versus them mentality, and increased political polarization can be traced back to that day, or were greatly exacerbated by it. Blockbuster, Pizza Hut on Friday nights, stack of VHSs, 2-liter of Barks, and an extra large pepperoni. God, I miss being a kid. My parents would always rent a movie, and they'd let me rent a game. We'd walk to Pizza Hut, place our order, then walk to the brand new Blockbuster and browse. It was amazing as a kid. I remember they had an N64 kiosk in the middle, and I actually begged my parents to let me stay and play Star Fox 64. Got it for Christmas that year and played it all night into the morning. I fell asleep at my grandma's house at the table during Christmas dinner that night. Haha, good times, man. The 80s was Cold War paranoia, and the 2000s was terrorist paranoia after 9/11. The 90s was this oasis of calm in between two paranoid decades. The end of history. Turns out history likes a lot of crazy twists in its endings. Not being contactable 24/7, the peace of leaving school or work and not having to deal with their nonsense until tomorrow. That became an issue with my work when we went remote because of COVID. They set it up so that we could install the mobile versions of our email and chat apps on our personal phones and forward our desk phones to them. It was a welcome convenience during work hours, as there were times we weren't at our laptops when someone was trying to contact us, but it also left us vulnerable to being reached 24/7. And it's not like I could just silence my phone because I don't have a landline. I ended up buying a budget Android with the cheapest prepaid plan I could find to use specifically for work tasks. Sucks that it's not on my work's dime, but definitely worth paying to keep my personal phone personal. Might be able to write that off on your taxes. That Friday afternoon after school feeling, when you knew you had 2 glorious days before you had any responsibility again. So you'd call your friends on the landline and hope their parents didn't pick it up so it wouldn't be awkward, and you'd get together and just go outside. That was it. There was no plan, but maybe somebody would bring a football, and you'd have a pickup game at the park. I honestly miss the internet from the 90s. I spent so many hours exploring and reading things, every webpage felt like I was visiting someone's house, and they were so personal as design standards did not exist yet. I enjoyed my Netscape Navigator, and I loved my IRC chat rooms. Keep in mind I was like 9 and 10, so mostly I spent time in Pokemon chat rooms that had bots. Discord is not the same as the IRC days. GeoCities. The pages would take forever to load because of the complete nonsense, but it was awesome. 36 GIFs and an autoplay 20-second loop of music, just to see someone express about their favorite rock. Sign my guest book, please! Watching grunge music videos on MTV and Keebler chips. Alice in Chains interviews and Unplugged Live. God damn, those were the real crap. Coming home stoned and watching 120 minutes and Liquid TV and discovering new cool music and weird videos? Heck yeah. We didn't live online yet. The internet was in its infancy and was a fun way to pass the time, but it hadn't consumed us. The business was still being done in brick-and-mortar stores. Our social lives were offline, etc. There was almost nothing to be purchased online, other than the online bookstore called Amazon. Pretty cool because they had a bigger inventory than you could fit in a building. And so it began. My cousin got me a $50 gift card for Amazon for my 14th birthday in 1998, and I made my first ever online purchase of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy omnibus from Amazon. Still have it on my bookshelf. Those were simpler times. Air travel? Holy crap, I missed the 90s air travel. Did you know that before 9/11 it wasn't a massive pain in the ass to go anywhere? Loved ones could walk you right up to the gate, you could bring snacks, sandwiches, and drinks onto the plane with you. The prices at Hudson News were perfectly reasonable because if they weren't, you could just walk out of the terminal and grab something. You never had to take your shoes off for anything. In fact, it used to be rude to take your shoes off at the airport. That's completely 180. I used to fly 3 or 4 times a year and it was usually pretty easy. Now I fly maybe once every 5 years and I absolutely dread it. My local airport used to have a viewing tower people could chill in. Even if you weren't traveling, you could just go watch. That's all gone. You could go up to the cockpit and the pilot would give you some wings to pin on your shirt. Now the air marshal tackles you and looks in your butt. My Super Nintendo being cutting-edge technology. Rushing home from school to play Secret of Mana or Final Fantasy III, feeling like a god at your friend's house because you could walk into Bowser's Castle small and win anyway? Man, Final Fantasy is the crap. I was born in '95, but my parents had me when they were 16 or 17, and my dad let me play everything that they had. Final Fantasy and Pokemon taught me how to read and write the way I do now. Building cubby houses, playing in the creek, rollerblading, then coming home and playing Sega or Nintendo. I miss taping stuff off of the TV, hanging out in my room, still playing with toys, reading cool magazines, and going through my card collections, the hype of the cinema back in the 90s, not being a slave to technology but still having wicked gadgets like Walkmans. You just perfectly described my summers in the 90s, like dead on. Going to the mall and hanging out with friends. The malls were awesome, and I hate that the strip mall style has taken over, especially up in Canada, where it gets to -40 in the winter. Back in the day, you could legitimately spend hours wandering the mall, indoors and warm. Now it is depressing. Maybe the big malls like Mall of America or West Edmonton Mall are still okay, but the ones in my city are crap. My mom would drop me off with my friends, and we'd call her from a payphone when we were done. We'd see a movie, play in the arcade, have an Orange Julius, and just hang out in the food court. Sometimes we'd have to scramble to find a quarter for the payphone, checking all of the coin returns in the vending machines, the floor of the arcade, even the fountain if we were desperate. I learned how to do collect calls. "Mom, I'm ready," was my name on those calls for years. This is going to sound depressing, but I was in my teens and had optimistic hopes and dreams for the future, both for myself and for the world in general. It's all been replaced with misanthropy. I'm pessimistic about the future and have very low expectations of what's to come for humans, including myself. I'm 40 and have aged pretty well. My eyes, though. I look in the mirror at myself and can tell that I'm mostly dead inside at this point. The spark is gone. The privacy. I was just a kid or young teenager, but I only knew my best friends intimately. The rest of my class didn't know or care. Now it's like all of your followers are in your bedroom or home when you post to social media, anyway. I can give you the details of the lives of people who I haven't spoken one word to in 17 years, simply because they friended me on Facebook back in 2005. I've started to realize that the best sign of a happy relationship is there is barely any mention of it on social media. I almost said hi to a coworker's husband and son when I saw them out and about running errands one day, and I stopped myself just in time when I realized I'd never met them in person. She just posts pictures of her family on Facebook a lot. Not for myself, but I feel bad for kids who have to experience bullying 24/7. When I was a kid in the 90s, I went to school and these kids made fun of me, but then I went home and it stopped. Now with social media, the bullying can invade kids' lives outside of school. Kind of a tangent, but not having your life invaded outside of home, work, or school was so nice. Most people do not even have cell phones. You had true insulation from society at home or anywhere. Picking out a movie at Blockbuster and good music or movies. Taking an hour at Blockbuster to argue with your friends about what to watch that night. I also love, "What should we do tonight? I don't know, let's stay in and watch a movie." Grabs keys to go to Blockbuster. The effort in getting up and moving off of your couch made the movie more worthwhile, even if it was kind of a crappy movie. The pre-social media days. I feel like there's an almost social expectation for me to be on Facebook now. I specifically chose to delete my account after college, and as a result, I've been out of the loop on so much with my friends from school. My close friends and I text and call, but I've missed a lot by not being on Facebook. I hate it. Why can't people keep in touch by email or phone anymore? I miss when Facebook required a .edu email address. I dropped social media in 2015, left college in 2014, and ran into a similar experience. I would argue 9 out of 10 people I had once affiliated with dropped off the face of the earth. I spoke to my father about it, born in 1952, and he told me that that was life. That's how life works, at least according to this man who at the time still held on to his '07 Blackberries. Suddenly, it made sense to me. Before the internet, which really was not that long ago, you can have a friend leave town and you would never see them again unless you knew where they lived, so you could find that locality's phone book. You could have an embrace with a friend who is moving out of town and never see or hear from them again unless they choose to call or mail you a letter. And that was life. You would wish these people well and a happy life, as after all, you did love them. I got a sense of peace out of what he told me. It's natural to lose people. It's okay. And frankly, I would argue that these aren't even authentic relationships. Most of the quote-unquote relationships held together by social media with the people of our past are superfluous at best. You're not sharing moments with these people. You're not going to new places, laughing over shared experiences. You're not living together. You're not hanging out. You're not even getting coffee. You're just commenting on the same thing. If that's what a relationship is, then I've got a relationship with every news anchor in the world. If a friend I haven't seen or heard from personally in 4 years likes my status, I mean really, who cares? Are they taking a quarter of a second to press their finger against a mouse or screen really the difference between me being in the loop or not? Personally, I don't think so. Recognize those friends and people you truly love, the ones who you want in your life forever, the people who will always have a warm hug and a roof over their head so long as you are around, and go out of your way to reach out to them frequently. A little text message, an occasional meme, a nice phone call. Write down their birthdays and mail them a gift, even if small or silly. Send them a Christmas card and be ridiculous about it. I love mailing postcards to old friends and they love receiving them. A little bit goes a long way, and remember, real relationships take effort. I don't talk with 90% of the people I met in my past, but my friendships with a handful of people have never been stronger. Even as we have all gone our separate ways over the last decade, live nowhere close to each other, and spend less face-to-face time with each other than we ever have before. Good luck. Not being blinded by headlights when driving. Now everyone has LED or illegal lights. This genuinely bothers me too. However, it's probably necessary since no one has changed the bulbs and lampposts since the 90s either. Our city has LEDs in every streetlight, and they're horrible. They spotlight the ground. The light is too cool of color, and if it's raining, it's next to impossible to see the road lines. Go back to the halogen and warm yellowish lights. They cast the light better and are better at illuminating things. It's why shooters wear yellow glasses. Makes things easier to see. The gaming. N64 with GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time, Rogue Squadron. It was my peak computer gaming time too, with hours spent on several Sid Meier, Maxis, and Roller Coaster Tycoon games. It's hard to put a finger on, but it seems like the music, in all of its genres, was just banging. 90s alternative rock is still amazing. I turned 10 years old in 1990, 16 in 96. The internet was a fun and chill place to be. It felt like a secret sometimes. Most of my IRL friends weren't online, and if they were, it was just AOL. I had a website, did Usenet, and IRC and ICU, and I could be as anonymous as I wanted to be. It felt like such a vast and creative space back then. I haven't felt like that about the internet in a long time. I didn't know the news all day, every day. Oh, and there weren't TVs in every fast food restaurant and bar. Yeah, you'd find TVs in sports bars and doctors' waiting rooms, but they weren't blaring the news 24/7 as they do now. People weren't so obsessed with decorating and redecorating and renovating their houses. I miss the summers when I was in middle school when I would just reread my favorite books and then try to write short stories about some of the characters. I didn't know there was such a thing called fanfic. I miss how there were always some sort of one-off comedy or drama at the movie theater. Not everything was a part of a series or franchise. There were dollar movie theaters, and even at the first-run theater, I could go in the late afternoon or early evening and get the matinee price of $4. I miss seeing Tori Amos, Smashing Pumpkins, Alanis, and Sarah McLachlan for about $30 for a decent seat. I don't miss all the smoke at the concert venue. The quietness before every idiot in the world had access to the internet and a camera phone. My best friend's family had a video camera, and when I went over to hang out, it was like a huge deal to make a funny video. Nobody else I knew had one, so it was very special and such an exciting novelty. Being a child, Pokemon was brand new. Sitting in the Walmart parking lot in my mom's minivan playing Pokemon Yellow with my Game Insider magazine as she shopped inside. A boy named Josh brought in Pokemon cupcakes when I was in 1st grade, the kind that has the plastic ring with the image stuck on top. I got Charmander, and I remember not giving a crap about the cupcakes themselves, but just being super hyped for the ring. Now my own kid is in 1st grade, and you're not allowed to send in treats anymore because of both COVID and allergies of the other kids. I'm a Zennial, so being in middle age now, I miss everything about the 90s. I really miss having no true responsibilities but choosing what color jelly shoes to wear that day, or begging my mom to bring me to the store for more stickers for my sticker album. I'm also a Zennial, and it hurts my heart to realize we are middle age, so I'm gonna say the one thing I miss from the 90s is my damn youth. I miss living in a non-monetized life. Presently, I feel if there's a way to charge someone for doing or thinking something or anything, it's been or is being implemented. And screw subscriptions for everything. Exactly. It's all 100% money and hustle culture now. I feel like only rich people do anything just for fun, because normal people can barely afford to, with insane real estate prices, inflation, and saving for retirement, and not wanting to work until I die. Quite frankly, it makes life very unenjoyable. Oh, well, at least I can play soccer. But even there, the cleats are pretty expensive and wear out much quicker than they used to. Planned obsolescence. Things being reasonably priced. Nowadays, inflation is beyond ridiculous. Even cheap things that are low quality now require some thought and budgeting in order to afford. I remember not wanting to spend over $20 on new jeans, and actually having plenty to choose from without going to the clearance section. Fall into the Gap, then buy grass-scented perfume, which why hasn't anyone replaced that? And then go buy some scented nail polish. There was a large goth scene. I liked the goths. All the ones I knew cared for each other, and were good people at heart. Might have a tough exterior, but they were the kind of people you want around when you are feeling unsafe or had a mental health crisis. What is that about? I've noticed this too, that all the goth and punk kids I know are really sensitive and good people when compared to most people. I don't know, maybe I'm being silly, but it's something I can't help but notice. Same with a lot of metalheads. They might have pentagrams and headbang and listen to music about Satan, but they're mostly good, thoughtful, decent people who use metal music as an outlet. The British electronic dance music scene. Early Prodigy is a time capsule. Saw the Prodigy on New Year's Eve, 95 or 96, I think. For a time machine. R.I.P. Keith. People having real fun. I think people are more concerned with posting something and going viral now. I really hate that you can just be minding your business, doing something with family or friends, and enjoying yourself, and somebody will randomly record what you're doing so that they can call you corny and get likes and views. People are too scared to actually let loose and have fun because there's always somebody with a phone, waiting to catch you looking silly while you do anything, so that they can record and post it. Seriously, I've initiated this rule with my friends. I don't want to be on your social media. Film whatever you want and take photos, but please ask consent to post if I'm in it. It kind of changed the norms, and now it's pretty natural to immediately show each other what we shot and tacitly wait for approval before posting. If the person doesn't say anything, then that's a no. If they are, "So cool, tag me in that," or something similar, it's a green light. I thought this was normal. I always ask people if I can post pictures of them before I actually post. I miss my waistline. I remember thinking I was big then. Wish I was that big now. I wish I could still be as pretty as I was when I thought I was ugly. Not having to make my own dinners and do my laundry. Didn't thank you enough, Mom. Arcades, music stores everywhere, music TV, people buying music. Something my wife brought up while talking about this post. Magazines, man! Everyone had their favorites for whatever hobby or interest they had. For me, it was Guitar World. Picking up the issues with bands I loved and plinking along to the tab on my crappy electric guitar. For my wife, it was 17, checking out the most recent trends. Or Thrasher, when it was just a skate magazine and not a clothing brand. Even Rolling Stone was a big deal for mainstream artists. Then those of us into an alternate crowd, there were tattoo mags like Savage. I and my wife used to scour our local 7-Elevens waiting for the new issue of Savage to show up. I get that you can find blogs, etc. online with the same info, and most of these mags still exist, but it's just not the same. The car design mostly. Cars from the 90s era carried really unique design lines, unlike today. Every single company feels like a copycat of each other. Other than that, the lack of social media, fashion, and grunge music. Pop-up up and down headlights. Yes, the 1997 Corvette C5, 1998 Lamborghini Diablo SV, and the most beautiful of them all, the 1995 Ferrari 355. Those are still the most iconic machines, which bring me straight back to my childhood. My metabolism. And everyone thought they were fat, but when you look at pictures, everyone is a skeleton. Not having a care in the world. Yes, along with that feeling of being young. Honestly, the thing I miss the most and the thing that is so hard to explain to modern kids is hanging out. Before cell phones, people used to just go to each other's homes or to some public space and just spend time together. This continued well into the internet era, but smartphones large killed it. Early cell phones were very basic and functional, basically just like having a landline in your car, bag, or pocket. You could call someone or receive a call, but what did you say? Most of the time it was just making plans to hang out in person. You weren't using those cell phones for long phone calls just to chat. Those minutes were expensive. No real social media. By the late 90s we had chat rooms, but it wasn't as pervasive as it is now. Most people's internet time was limited, and we all had lives outside of the internet. The thing is, these days no one has remotely any idea what that is to live outside of the internet. Gas prices. When putting a 5 in the tank actually did more than just moisten the gas tank. I remember me and my high school friends chipping in change to buy gas just to cruise around. We'd collect maybe $1.50 and it'd be enough for most of the night. My childhood and TV commercials. I never got to play with sock and boppers, and Miss Cleo never got to tell my fortune. Call me now. I can still hear that voice. The Terminator movies. Hype. Thanks for watching until the end. Please feel free to share your experiences down in the comment section below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and then stop by the channel to check out one of our other amazing videos.